This is Principles of Accounting 1, and we're going to look at an example for the accounting equation, and we're going to look at the example for the short exercise 5. It tells us to use the accounting equation to answer each question that follows. The first one says at the beginning of the year, Pallet Company's assets were $90,000 and its owner's equity was $50,000. Then it also tells us that during the year our assets increased by $30,000 and our liabilities increased by $5,000, and ultimately wants to know what was the owner's equity at the end of the year. So the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to have to remember what our accounting equation is. And our accounting equation is assets equals liabilities plus owner's equity. We're going to take the initial information that was given to us and solve for our liabilities. Before we can take into account any of the increases, we need to determine what liabilities were at the beginning. So because of the accounting equation, we have $90,000 in assets are equal to an unknown liability amount plus $50,000 in owner's equity. Using simple algebra, we can solve for our liabilities, and we conclude that the amount of our liabilities at the beginning was $40,000. We now can take into account the changes in order to determine our ending owner's equity. Assets increased by $30,000, so $90,000 plus $30,000, it gives us our $120,000 in assets. Our liabilities increased by $5,000, which brings them to be $45,000 at the end of the accounting period. So now we have another algebraic equation that we can solve for owner's equity, leaving us with $120,000 in assets minus our $45,000 in liabilities gives us $75,000 in owner's equity. So I can put my $75,000 here to get my answer for problem 1. The second one says, at the beginning of the year, Carmine's company had liabilities of $100,000. We had an owner's equity of $96,000. Then it says that if assets increased by $40,000 and liabilities decreased by $30,000, what was the owner's equity at the end of the year? So we have the same type of scenario, only a little bit different numbers, and then our changes involve an increase and a decrease. So we're going to start off like we did in the first example, and we're going to start with our accounting equation to solve for our assets this time. So accounting equation, assets equal liabilities plus owner's equity. Then to solve for our assets, they're going to be the sum of our total liabilities plus our total owner's equity. So our assets equal $196,000. Now we're going to take into account the changes that occurred over the year. And it said that our assets increased by $40,000. So we add the $40,000 to the beginning $196,000. And it says our liabilities decreased by $30,000. So you can see here where we're subtracting the $30,000 out, and then we're using OE as our variable to find our ending owner's equity for the year. So what we have is $236,000 in assets is equal to $70,000 in liabilities plus an unknown ending balance amount for owner's equity. When we solve this algebraically, we get owner's equity is equal to $236,000 in assets minus our $70,000 in liabilities, and we end up with owner's equity being $166,000. So I can return here and put my $166,000 as my answer, and I'm going to use my check my work function, which for each of your assignments you have the option of doing that one time. And it comes back and tells me with the green check marks that my answers are correct.